sa pamamagitan po naman ng ating Facebook Live at mayroon tayong resource person na inanyayahan to share his views about what's going on. Ang kasama po natin ay isang batang-batang PhD, si Dr. Chester Bangkud CABALZA. Siya po ang Pangulo at nagtatag ng International Development and Security Cooperation. Siya po yung dating Executive Fellow ng Council of Fellows at dating Vice President ng Center of Research and Strategic Studies ng Development Academy of the Philippines. Dati po yung pinakabatang faculty member at Module Director at Associate Professor ng National Defense College of the Philippines. Siya po ay namuno rin bilang Registrar, Public Information at Foreign Liaison at Academics doon sa tanggapang iyon. Siya po ay consultant ng Japan International Cooperation Agency at reviewer ng Environmental Management Bureau ng Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Siya po ay isang senior lecturer sa graduate program ng Department of Anthropology sa University of the Philippines sa Diliman. Pero what makes him outstanding is siya po'y fellow ng People's Liberation Army ng College of Defense Studies ng National Defense University sa Beijing, China, at nakasama rin sa US Department of State's study ng US Institute on National Security and Policy Making sa ilalim po naman ng University of Delaware at ng US-based Strategic and Warfare Studies Initiative at ng Philippine Council for Foreign Relations. It's a pleasure na makasama natin si Dr. Chester CABALZA. Magandang araw sa iyo, Doc. And welcome.
Yes, sir. Magandang araw din, Sir Melo, at sa lahat ng tagapakinig at viewers po ninyo. Maraming salamat po sa napakagandang introduction sa akin at sana magandang ating diskusyon ngayon. And I'm really excited about it. No? So looking forward to your questions later on.
Marami tayong mapapag-usapan sapagkat binabanggit ngayon magkakaroon ng bagong Pangulo sa Estados Unidos, si Pangulong Joe Biden, at papalabas na si Pangulong Donald Trump. Anong nakikita mong impact ng pag-upo ni Joe Biden sa Pilipinas?
First, I'm really excited about it, kasi unang-una, kung saan graduate si incoming president, American President Joe Biden, sa University of Delaware. Doon din ako nag-aral. Doon din ako inimbita kung saan ako. So, the euphoria and the excitement from the Delaware community. Kasi napakaliit lang nitong Delaware State, no? At doon graduate ang magiging presidente ng US, and vis-a-vis, doon din yung asawa niya graduate, no? Si Dr. Mrs. Biden, no? But nonetheless, no, everyone is excited and happy about it. It brought hope not only in the US but to the world also. Kasi unang-una, nakita rin natin yung frustration, disappointment, disenchantment natin with the United States nung mga nakaraang mga taon dahil yung mga foreign policies nila hindi tugma doon sa mga values na gusto nilang iparating sa mundo. And all of a sudden, nagkaroon ng racial and viral pandemic nung that started, of course, in 2019 until 2020, and we are still on it, no, dito sa COVID-19 pandemic na ito. But of course, no, the impact is very strong and powerful. One, it will determine the status of the United States, whether or not we will still respect the US if it's still the world's superpower. Kasi nga nakita natin na medyo tumamlay yung kanilang standing worldwide, no, when it comes to combating the COVID-19 pandemic, at saka yung ekonomiya nila nagkaroon ng recession, at of course, no, ang isa sa mga kinukutya sa kanila yung kanilang policies when it comes to of course, no, yung sa races nila, yung racial, kaya nagkaroon din ng racial pandemic. But all of a sudden there was hope. Kasi yung upang vice presidente ngayon ng United States din isang biracial, no, that first woman, black and brown. So ang laking bagay yun. And ang ginawa nila, lahat ng iuupo nila ngayon na cabinet members na gusto nilang i-appoint, eh, this is the largest composition of an American cabinet members na nanggaling sa iba-ibang racial backgrounds. So makikita natin na yung mosaic of the American dream na sinasabi nila na all of a sudden it can happen pala, no?
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden we know for a fact that anyone can become Americans because of their free and open migration policy. Pero syempre, nagkaroon ng problem yan in the past years, na-review nila, but itong mga generation na parating ngayon, eh mukhang mga migrants yung yung mga magli-lead ngayon sa US. Now, what would be the effect of that to the world? We saw kasi nga ang sabi nila, the West is waning,
Mhm.
is fading. But that is the thinking of the Europeans, not in the US. Kasi nagbigay ng hope si US. Kasi we know for a fact, if we look at the figures, talaga namang nag-recede yung economy ng US and Europe. The
Mhm.
only economy, the only major economy that really buoyed up during the pandemic was China. Nakita natin naman na si China lang yung sa kanya nang galing yung virus, pero nagulat tayo bakit siya pa yung umuunlad. Although very least lang yung buoyancy ng macroeconomic
Mhm.
statistics nila, no. But it took a hard time for Europe and of course and the US to catch up. Particularly Europe kasi nga mukhang napag-iwanan sila when it comes to innovation and inventions. But nonetheless, that's not the main topic. And thirdly, makikita rin natin na there might be some changes when it comes to foreign policies
Mhm.
for the upcoming Biden administration. Unang-una, what are the contested foreign policies right now in the US? We know for a fact that um, we saw how the US became protectionist. No,
Mhm.
naging ano sila, they have to protect their people ngayon because definitely tumataas yung kanilang mga patients sa COVID-19. Of course, may mga variants na ngayon. And secondly, they were not able to effectively combat yung pandemic. And all of a sudden, people from different corners of the world began to question the credibility of the US. And secondly, being the world's police, no, marami kasi silang ginagwardyahan na iba-ibang regions sa buong mundo. One would be of course yung flashpoints. One of the biggest flashpoints would be the South China Sea.
Of
No, at
course.
in which case we are part of it dahil nga we have some claims, territorial and maritime claims also on the South China Sea, no. At nakita nila na and during the time that they were struggling with their foreign policies when it comes to the South China Sea, starting from the Obama administration na nag-pivot to Asia, and then of course during the time of Trump, they had this Indo-Pacific strategy. And then we still don't know what would be the strategy of Biden. But although there were some analysts were saying also that in the U.S. that it could follow through the Indo-Pacific strategy of of Trump, or they will try to revamp it and maybe soften its relations with Beijing. So yun yung kanilang conditions dun. But nonetheless, ang nakikita natin dito, while the US is combating its domestic issues, particularly they had elections last year, and then they were also struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic, and their economy is shrinking, and of course not they have other massive issues pa domestically speaking. China was kumbaga at their strength, no, and even with and without the pandemic, talagang they are militarizing the South China Sea.
Mhm.
And really we saw that they were, aside from their aggression, they were able to progressively of course no achieve their ambition, which is to control the South China Sea. What would be the repercussion when you control the South China Sea? One would be, of course, no. We know for a fact that during the COVID-19 pandemic last year, we know that there was a sprouting globalization. Pero naging protectionist halos lahat ng mga economies natin, lahat ng bansa. Kasi nga of the dwindling resources, and
Mhm.
of course yung global supply chain, mukhang hindi kinaya. So from globalization, we saw regionalization. That's why there are many policies and strategies brought out by different regions in the world na, teka, wag nating isipin yung mundo ngayon. Isipin natin yung rehiyon natin o kundi yung bansa natin to survive. Because the role of the state is to protect its people. Kasi halos nalalagas na, namamatay na yung mga mamamayan or citizens ng mga iba't ibang bansa. So of course no, that's a Darwinian survival, no, unahin mo yung sarili mo. And
Oo.
and we
Tama,
saw
tama, tama.
that. Yeah,
We
and
saw that.
right, and we saw that not only by major economies but also with the small state countries or middle powers. We saw that, and that's natural, no. Ngayon, we saw that and we saw how China was able to effectively implement their gray area tactics. Ang galing nila na habang ang mundo nakikipag battle sa COVID-19, tuloy-tuloy yung kanilang tuloy-tuloy yung because they are taking advantage of it, but because they have a dream to follow. We know for a fact that they are celebrating this year their centenary, and also the Communist People's Party, and also by 2049 they have to achieve something. They have that dream. Nakaplano naman kasi kung ano ang gusto nila.
Grabe yung long
That's
range plan nila, no?
right. That's part of their grand strategy because they are aspiring to become a global superpower. They want to
Okay.
rival the US. And if you want to become a global superpower, then you should have a grand strategy. Hindi lang yung isang rehiyon ang titignan mo, kundi yung buong mundo. Of course, ang kagandahan pa sa ginawa ni China, although we're not praising what China has done, we're trying to analyze what they have achieved and how they did it, no. Kumbaga, very very unlike yung West, very vocal sila when it comes to their dreams, aspirations and strategies. Si China, dahil because of their past experience as a dynastic power, maritime power, now they are a communist power, yung very silent sila. They don't divulge much of their strategies and plans.
Yeah.
Kaya ang mundo ngayon, iniisip niya, ano ang next plan nila? And when
Mhm.
China does it, it becomes a headline, a world headline. Kasi
Of
nga,
course.
teka, tumira na naman sila or may ginawa na naman sila. So, that we didn't expect. So ngayon tayo, as spectators and we observers, sometimes we don't know how would be their plans, no, nagugulat tayo. But of course, no, the good thing na dapat ang gagawin natin diyan is we also try to study them. We try to understand them, no,
Okay.
why they are doing all those stuff.
All right. Isang bagay na sinasabing pumapabor sa China,
Mm.
they have so much resources.
Yeah,
Pera,
yeah,
no? Yung Amerikano, medyo problemado ngayon.
yeah.
Kaya lang, tinitingnan ko rin, ano yung magiging sistema ni Joe Biden dun
Mm,
sa pivot to Asia?
mm,
Because,
mm.
si Barack Obama had it,
Yeah.
pero hindi naman nagtagumpay dahil walang logistics. Pagkatapos naupo si Donald Trump, naging Indo-Pacific na yung approach.
Mm.
And sa larangan ng ekonomiya, bubuhayin pa kaya ulit yung Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Yeah, yung TPP, no, na
Yeah.
sinasabi nila. Yeah, well, of course, no, ang ganda nung naratibo at saka yung evolution ng nangyari. Let's also try to look at the values of the two parties in the US. Magkaiba kasi yung values na yun mag-emanate kung ano yung ipaglalaban ng mga parties, no. Nakita natin na during the time of Barack Obama na kapareho ng party ni Joe Biden ngayon na Democrat, iba yung values na pinopropagate nila, and of course on how they do it, no. We saw how they value human rights, and of course their intention of course, no, um, uh, uh, in terms of their strategies also na magkaiba. Nakita natin yung sa Republican na very conservative yet aggressive sila, no. Nakita natin yun when it comes to the Indo-Pacific, no. But generally yung Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, there was a time that they tried to not to implement it because of some repercussions because you have APEC. Sila rin kasi yung nagtayo ng Asia Pacific Economic Conference, no? And then all of a sudden you have the
Yung
TPP.
APEC, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Sila rin yan eh.
Yeah, nagkaroon ng APEC tapos yung TPP yung kanilang pinopose because it's a global, no. It doesn't only include yung mga members of member countries of the APEC region, no. Mas malawak si TPP. Ngayon, ang ginawa naman strategy ng ginawa ni US ngayon, nagkaroon this last year early they approved the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Program. Yun yung pangtapat nila. And then of course, we know for a fact that prior to pandemic, 2 years ago, they have the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. Pangtapat nila yun sa World Bank and to IMF, International Monetary something like that. No? Yeah. So you see the rivalry because monetary institutions also will set the standards of the value.
Yeah. And before COVID,
no, nakita natin yan. And all of a sudden now, going back to your question, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just thinking along the line.
Your question.
Yung kasing Trans-Pacific Partnership, pagkatapos meron pang Belt and Road Initiative.
Yes. That's another thing.
Parang eto na, may pera kami, halina kayo, join us para we progress together. Yung shared prosperity na binabanggit, although no World War II, iba yan kay Hitler at sa Japan. Ano ba yung nakikita mo rito in terms of security?
Right. Sir, this is my explanation for that. No, we know for a fact that colonial powers. No, we have experienced colonialism in the Philippines, and those who colonize the Philippines are really major powers or superpowers. You have Spain, the United States, Japan, and of course we know we still don't know whether or not kumbaga China will do the same thing also to us. No, but these are superpowers. No? But the point is, they usually use economics. No? Ekonomiya muna yung first step nila, trade, commerce, economic diplomacy, to enter the country, and that's how that becomes a front before they offer their intentions. Because all of these colonial, or let's not mention the colonial powers na, all of these major powers who have intentions for middle and small state countries have hidden interest. And lumalabas yun kung ano yung national interest nila. Kaya pagdating sa China, ginagamit kasi nila yung Silk Road nila, yung Maritime Silk Road, and then of course they are very aggressive because our government right now proposed a build program. That's an infrastructure program, no. And since China has money and they know that that can go down to their interest also, they offered a lot of help. Pero ang question nga natin nung 2016 until today, nasaan yung mga promise juicy investments. Meron na ngayon, hindi siya magma-materialize pa during this administration, but that will materialize for the next administration. Kasi ngayon nakita natin more on meron ang bilis kasi I also review for the DNR for yung environmental compliance certificate, no. Maraming mga priority projects ngayon funded by China, dams, bridges, railways, talagang very massive, and may binago silang mga may binago silang rules para mapadali pag when it comes to yung priority projects exclusively for build na shorten yung pagkuha ng ECC, pero ganun pa rin yung process, no. But the point that what I'm trying to drive at here is that really China is heavily funding us, the Philippines, when it comes to infrastructure. Of course, tayo naman sumusunod tayo at pinaglalaban natin yung batas ng Pilipinas na dapat sumunod sila. And these are the laws that we have in the Philippines, and you have to comply and follow it. No, but the point here is ganun sila ka-aggressive. Madalang akong makakita ng American-initiated investments or European-initiated investments. Kung meron man, they usually partner with their Chinese counterparts.
Mhm.
No? So, ibig sabihin, may pera talaga si China. Let's admit the fact that they are the new kids on the block.
Of
They are
course.
the new novo rich, kumbaga. Sila ang
Uh-huh.
novo rich ngayon, no? Mga new rich sila ngayon. And let's accept that. And China is a reality that they have aspirations, interest, and they have money. No, now assuming we have, of course, no, China. The reason why recently the foreign minister of China went to the Philippines and to some other Southeast Asian countries and to Africa is to reassure to these different governments in the region that China is here to help us, and of course, no, because of course we tend to antagonize, and sometimes because no, we don't also hindi rin natin how would I say it, hindi rin natin kinokondon yung maling ginagawa ng China. No, we know for a fact that there are some erroneous tactics and strategies din silang ginawa na hindi katanggap-tanggap doon sa ating mga prinsipyo at paniniwala as a sovereign
Mm.
state when it comes to China Sea. Pero ang sinasabi natin dito, iba-iba kasi ang bilateral relationship natin with China. Of course, there's security, political, may economic yan, may socio-cultural, iba-iba yan. At iba-ibang degrees din yung pakikitungo natin dito, no? But for economics, mukhang verbose and nakikita natin ang golden years, economically speaking.
Mhm.
Because China is showing really their intention. But it's not only China that is doing that. Kasi ang number one pa rin na investor natin na nakita natin na solid sa ating gobyerno is Japan. No, and nakita natin how Japan has been doing its best na mai-offer yung technology nila, transfer of technology, and also yung mga investments also nila to the Philippines. But we could not deny the fact also that China is there to rival Japan and other parties like the West, no,
Mhm.
Europeans and the Americans, no. So yun yung nakikita natin ngayon. Now, if we translate that also, because next year would be a very crucial year for the Philippines. No, one is if we debated in 2016 the state of the South China Sea / West Philippine Sea,
Mhm.
the debate for 2022 will change. Well, of course, we will still discuss about the South China Sea, West Philippine issue, but we will also be debating the presence of China as an economic partner in the Philippines. Yun yung
Okay.
magiging debate for next year. Kasi nandito na sila, nakapasok na sila. And what shall we do? We cannot just kick them out kasi karapatan din nila makipag-trade sa atin. At alam natin na posible sila ang magiging superpower,
Okay.
no?
Okay.
Mm.
Along that line, yung
Mm.
narrative nung araw na
Mm.
yung China hindi nanakop ng bansa,
Mm.
pagkos ay nagkalakal lamang sila.
Mm.
Because China was never a maritime power.
Right.
What we had were Chinese junks selling their wares,
Mm.
doing barter with our forefathers. But the point is, yung kayang paradigm na yon na
Mm.
magte-trade lang sila, nagbago
Yeah.
sapagkat you have a growing
Interesting.
population
Yeah.
who may need all the natural resources that other
I
countries have.
Okay,
What's your take?
this is my view, Sir Melo. No, I agree that during those periods, they were just akin to trade and diplomacy. Yun ang naratibo na nila. At nakita naman natin doon sa mga records sila ng ganun nga, no? During the Ming Dynasty, talagang may mga vassal states sila, and
Hmm.
they are just happy with that, no?
Yeah.
Na maipakita nila that we are the cultured dynasty, ganyan lang sila.
Ah.
So bow down to us, ganyan lang yung ano nila. I'm talking culturally speaking, no. But along that line, we should also remember that everyone is evolving, even countries evolve, leaders evolve, and national interest change, no.
Mhm.
Ngayon, napunta na ngayon, nasadlak sila ngayon sa isang pagkakataon na uh, nabigyan sila ng pagkakataon ngayon to redeem its past glory. Okay, nakuha nila, nakita they were very successful in doing that. Alam mo ang tao at mga bansa, may mga insatiable desires yan, di ba? What do we still want after we achieve this? Dumating
Mhm.
sila sa punto na, teka, number 2 economy na tayo in the world.
Why can't we number one?
Why, that's the point.
Di
Why
ba?
can't that be number one? Although they have plans and knowing their culture and their values, very quiet sila when they do it. And once they do it, syempre they will be antagonized by the external other actors like other countries, big powers. Kasi rivals sila, threat sila, di ba? So
Mhm.
ngayon, nagplano sila. May mga nasagasaan sila at mga hindi natin nagustuhan na mga pinaggagawa nila. Naturally, people will, of course, no, will contradict their values and, of course, their
Mhm.
philosophy. And nandyan na sila. And right now, in terms of there's a study by World Bank that by 2024, it could be possible that economically speaking, China will overtake the US. No, we're talking about the GDP, the gross domestic product, and the PPP, yung purchasing power, no, parity. Kasi talagang nakita naman natin ang daming crazy rich Asians ngayon.
Oh,
But
of
even
course.
manood ka nga ng mga American produced Netflix ngayon, makita mo yung mga Chinese, they're buying everything. So,
Yeah.
so that's a reality that even Americans accept. No,
Yeah.
that's part of the narrative that the world accepts right now. So, meaning to say that hindi naman kuro-kuro lang, hindi lang naman fantasies itong nakikita natin, but these are realities.
Okay.
No, no. If that happens, because by projection, by different economic indicators, by 2050, China will really become the most prosperous nation on earth. No,
Mhm.
starting from 2030, 2040, 2050. That's the projection. Ang
Okay.
dami na nagsasabi niyan. No, at iba-ibang mga Western banks na ang nagsasabi niyan. So, uh, if you have money, you can buy, you can, of course, you can modernize your armed forces. No? Right now, ang magkalaban kasi sa when it comes to naval arsenal and of course to number of soldiers and to yung defense material, si US and China talaga.
Mhm.
Of course, nandyan si Russia, India, and some other Western powers there. But talagang magka-rival ngayon si US and China. And if the time comes that they would really have a lot of money and they become the number one economy in the world, the more they will buy military equipment and hardware, and definitely mas lalakas silang bansa, no? And of course, without using the soft power, talaga namang everyone will go all roads to Beijing na ngayon. Siyempre, sila yung pinakamalakas na bansa. So naturally, lahat ng
Yeah.
magkakaroon ng co-optation. And this is what I foresee. I can see also, no? Who would ever thought that during World War II, we know for a fact that the US and Japan were nemesis, were
Of
rivals,
course.
enemies during that time. Who would ever thought that now they are the best of friends?
Yeah.
It could also happen that if we cannot, of course, we know for a fact that we have territorial and maritime disputes with China, and we were able to slap them, embarrass them because of the Hague ruling, which we won. But that doesn't stop us to become friends with China in the future.
Of course.
No,
Okay.
it. Uh,
Yeah. My next question is, Mr. Wang Yi was in the Philippines.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yes,
in
sir.
Africa,
Mm,
and some people looked at it as vaccine diplomacy
Yeah.
because they have advances in science and technology,
Mm,
and
mm.
they found it an appropriate way to say, we are your friends
Okay.
and we
Yeah.
will help you.
I like
Now,
that.
in the Philippines, Mr. Duterte, our president,
Mm,
said Mr. Wang Yi pledged 500,000 doses of China-made vaccines for the Philippines.
mm,
Now, according to spokes Harry Roque,
mm.
we are buying the vaccines yung best friends forever rates.
BFF
However,
rates.
hindi pa lang mailalabas kung magkano because
Mm,
negotiations are still going on.
mm.
Now, ito bang pangangailangan natin for vaccines?
Mm.
Will this, be at the front seat, and the ruling on the South China Sea will take the back seat?
Yeah,
Kalilimutan na
yeah.
ba natin yon? Isang tanong lang yan.
Ah, ah, ah. Ang ganda nung tanong, sir, no, and it's really challenging at the same time. One is, of course, definitely, ang galing ni China na makipagdiplomasya. Nakita yan natin yan during the height of the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea conundrum, no. Habang nakikipaglaban tayo sa ating kaso sa The Hague, talagang nag-penetrate yung mga diplomats nila, and they really try to convince some of our leaders, no, to stop, or if not
Uh-huh. Yeah.
to comments, no, on that issue. So now, then COVID-19 happened, which started from Wuhan in China, and then we know for a fact that we are entering the vaccine revolution right now. And we know for a fact na hindi lang si China yung mga nagkaroon ng mga candidate vaccines, no, and some other countries like the US, Germany, and South Korea, and so on.
Yeah.
Now, nakita natin sa pag-aaral, if we try to look at the perception of people, at talaga naman kapag gawang Western or gawang Amerikano ang produkto, talagang may tiwala pa tayo, no? Napansin kasi natin kapag gawang China ang produkto, may duda tayo, no? We have some doubts. And the reason why, and of course lumabas yan si Sinovac, yung mga ibang mga China-made vaccines. In some other countries, mukhang ginagamit na nila. No? But in the Philippines, of course, knowing our recent history and recent spot with China, mukhang nagdududa tayo with their intentions. No?
Okay.
Because of that recent experiences with them. No? We cannot deny the fact, and we cannot blame our people and the government also of having that kind of feeling and experience. No? Ngayon, it was a reassurance. No, I'm trying to understand how the Chinese try to, of course, no, to engage with us. Of course, definitely, it's a very strategic move on the part of Beijing. Kasi
Mm.
unang-una, they know that even if we have the West Philippine Sea issue with them, medyo nagdududa tayo sa mga sa kanila because of our swinging foreign policies also against China, no? Minsan okay tayo, minsan may hindi tayo okay, ganyan
Teka muna.
tayo, no?
You know, I will
uh,
have to ask you this. Do we really
uh,
have a foreign policy that is
that's the, that's another thing, no. Maybe this is my point of view here. Uh, Looking at the strategic culture of the Philippines, because that's my dissertation, no.
good?
In which case foreign policy of the Philippines is part of it. Mukhang we are more of a reactive, no, when it comes to foreign policy making. Reactive tayo than anong magandang word
Proactive.
doon. Oh, reactive tayo than proactive.
Uh-huh.
No, meaning to say that sometimes meron naman tayong mga tools on doing that, no, pero tayo kasi kahit napakaganda ng mga isulat natin o nang iniisip natin for brainstorming and policy making crafting, no, law crafting and so on, when it comes to implementation, doon tayo may nahirapan, no, kasi may iba-ibang subsectors or different sectoral groups na bumubulong, or if not, hindi natin institutionalize
Okay.
what do we really want. That's the
All right.
biggest problem with us. Unlike our rivals and our competitors and our neighbors, they know what they want. No?
And they can always stand on their convictions, right?
That's the point. Ibig sabihin, maganda yung value system nila.
Ay,
No?
baka ang value natin is magkano,
yun ang
di
yun ang
ba?
isang pwedeng ano, we cannot deny the fact that pwede. Or if not, masyadong how would I say yung politics natin? Hindi siya collective kundi personalistic.
No, no, it's collective dahil may kumukolekta somewhere.
Ayun, that's a different thing, sir. Ibang collection yun na.
Iba, iba.
Pero yung collective values natin hindi tugma sa individual values natin. So we
Mhm.
see some mismatching there, no?
Okay.
Kasi we've seen that there are many successful countries around the world where we've seen how powerful their collective values, no? At naipapakita nila yan in their transactions with different governments and how they deal with their security issues, no?
Aha. Okay, maganda yan. Pero coming from a security expert like you are, I'd
Thank you,
like to
sir.
ask you this, no?
ah,
Duda ang karamihan ng Pilipino sa
mm,
China.
mm, mm,
Okay? Doon sa nangyari sa South China Sea at ilang mga insidente.
mm,
And yet, President Rodrigo Duterte, who is close to China,
mm.
is still popular.
Right.
So, ano yung dynamics
Okay.
dito?
Ang ganda nung tanong, sir, no? Dumating kasi siya bilang isang presidente natin where populism became a trend worldwide. Dumating siya sa punto na gano'n. Nagkaroon din, hindi lang naman mga small or maybe socialist countries ang nagkaroon ng popular leader. Pati nga yung most powerful country in the world, nagkaroon din sila ng popular leader, di ba? Yung itong si Trump, di ba, popular leader
Aha.
din siya. Kaso
Yeah.
tingnan mo yung nangyari recently before he leaves the office, nagkaroon ng disruptions and of course, no, hindi tugma doon sa value system nila. And the world got frustrated with that. Now, in the Philippines, for the longest time, naghahanap tayo ng kamay na bakal yung yung pag-rule sa Philippines because we've seen that many were saying that we've been so weak in selecting our leaders or of course no pagboto natin sa ating mga leaders. Dumating siya na may magandang rhetorics. Pero ang nakita natin nung pag-upo niya, kasi 'di ba sinasabi ko kanina, reactive yung ating mga policies. Naging reaction yung kanyang engagement with China from the previous administration because the previous administration before him was very hostile to Beijing. Kaya nga 'di ba kinasuhan natin si Beijing at
Mhm.
nanalo tayo tapos si China nag-react, minsan hindi niya iniimbita yung dating presidente natin sa mga events nila, tapos may mga iba-ibang silang mga uh, uh, ginawa pa sa Pilipinas in our economics, no, yung banana ano natin, something
Mhm.
like that, no. But the point is he was trying to soften the pedal. Maintindihan natin yun because very tight yung bilateral relationship natin before, na gusto niya baka based from my analysis and understanding, he was like trying to of course no to do a different strategy na kapag kinaibigan natin si China, baka mapatawad tayo at pagbibigyan tayo doon sa mga demands natin, particularly on our territories, maritime territories in the south, in the West Philippine Sea. Pero mukhang hindi ganun yung nangyari. Because like what I said, China is very adamant when it comes to their national interest.
Aha.
Hindi naintindihan ng Pilipinas kung ano yung interest ng China at that time. Ang inintindi natin kung paano natin mapapaamo si China, no?
Okay.
But the problem there, we didn't understand what China wants. One, ano ba ang gusto ng China? Ang pinapangarap ng China is mabuo lahat ng mga teritoryong nawala sa kanila. Nakita natin yan sa Hong Kong, sa Macau. Ngayon, ang gusto nilang gawin is, kasi di ba by 100 years, yung national rejuvenation nila, kasi napahiya sila sa kanilang kasaysayan, na sana maibalik sa kanila ang teritoryo nila sa Taiwan na tingin nila is a renegade province, plus based sa kanilang kasaysayan, ang South China Sea ay parte ng kanilang teritoryo. Eh, ang daming claimant countries dyan. Ang
Okay.
ginawa natin yung legal means because that's the acceptable means right now in the 21st century. Kaya nga mayroon tayong UN at saka mga iba-ibang
Okay.
korte, no? And China must learn from that. Kaya nagbago rin, kung titingnan natin yung naratibo nila, nagbago na rin yung mga narratives nila. Unang-una, ano yung mga nagbago sa China? Nagbago yung kanilang claims on the nine dash line. Kung titingnan mo yung mga narratives na nila, hindi na nila masyado binabanggit yung nine dash line because of the Philippines
Repercussion.
contribution. Yeah,
May
because of the
repercussion
result.
yan.
Okay. And secondly, as yung tanong niyo po kanina napakaganda, no? Bakit nagbago si China, no? Sabi niyo dahil hindi naman sila nananakop na bansa noon. Ngayon, may tendency bang manakop sila? Of course, no, hindi na ngayon issue yung whether or not colonizing power sila, no. Ang mangyayari diyan is natuto sila sa mga dating nanakop sa mundo, sa iba't ibang bansa. Because basically they are naging estudyante sila ngayon ng international relations kasi closed door sila dati. Nakita nila, inaral nila kung ano yung behaviors ng mga malalakas na bansa. Ngayon, pag kinikriticize nila, bakit nyo ginagawa ito? Ganyan din naman yung ginawa niyo noon.
Aha.
Yun ang binabato nila doon sa mga malalakas na bansa. Nanakop kayo, ganito yung ginawa ninyo, bakit hindi namin pwedeng gawin ito ngayon? No? So, yun yung kanilang rhetorics. And thirdly, dahil naiintindihan na nila ngayon yung dynamics ng international relations, international laws, sa international community, nakikipag-ano na rin sila. They are trying also to engage and be part of that community.
Okay.
Unang-una, naglagay rin sila ng judge sa ICC, dun sa The Hague. So tapos dahil nagkakapera sila, nagtayo sila ng sariling bangko nila. Tapos nagkaroon sila ng grand strategy nila through the South Maritime Silk Road, no? Unti-unti silang natututo.
Okay.
And I think that is part of the evolution of China right now. That their value system can change, but I don't know if they will survive their dynastic power as
Okay.
a socialist power.
You're a fellow of the People's Liberation Army. You had the chance to meet them, talk to them, discuss with them.
Yeah, I had classmates
Yun
who
nga
are
precisely eh.
Oo.
Magkakaklase
Ang
kayo.
babait nila.
Pero yun ang tanong ko, yung mindset, because whether you like it or not, President Xi Jinping will have to contend with the doves and the hawks.
Yeah.
And most of the hawks, I'd like to believe, are in the southern part of China na may kasama, sila yun nando sa Nansha City. Right?
Yes.
So, paano ngayon yung balance nito?
Okay, ganito yan, sir, no? Ang natatanda ako just for the listeners and to you po,
Our
no?
viewers,
Viewers natin. When I studied in Beijing, of course, no, I was under the program of the National Defense University of China, no, so PLA nila. May mga kaklase ako mga PLA officers kasi lahat ng mga kaklase ko doon ay mga defense attaches. So mga matataas ng rango nila, mga colonel and generals, ganyan. So ako yung isa sa mga civilian minority doon. But nonetheless, the point here is I had PLA classmates who are military men and women. May mga babae ng mga PLA. At mababait naman sila. And they have some subversive question also during our debates in class. Nagtatanong din sila bakit ganito ang polisiya ng gobyerno nila at kung ano yung nangyayari doon sa armed forces nila, no? But nonetheless, I'm quite sure, no, there are also insecurities within China, like yung binanggit ninyo noon sa kanina, no. Definitely, kung titingnan naman natin si China, it's also like the US. It's multicultural. Ang daming mga iba't ibang paniniwala at lahi rin doon. I remember there was a time na we went to this isang cultural show. Tapos may mga mukhang Russian Pero sinasabi, no, no, they are Chinese. Ha? Ganon. Kasi yung boundaries, di ba? Tapos
Mhm.
may kinainan kami na, I don't know which place is that, na mukhang Indian. Sabi nila, no, they are Chinese. Sabi nila, kasi yung boundary nila with India also. So
And
that
Pakistan
I'm,
and the like, no?
oh, yes, yes. The point that I'm trying to drive at here, just like in the Philippines na plural society tayo, vis-a-vis same also with China. Very plural and multicultural din sila. And they have some racial issues also na it becomes an insecurity and a threat also to their national security.
Okay.
That
Yeah. Yeah, closer to home.
mm,
Uh, whether we like it or not, ngayon first semester tayo ng 2021.
right, right.
By July, eto na yung second semester. And
Mm,
by October, ito na yung filing ng certificates of
yeah.
candidacy.
Mm, mm.
What do you see? How
Oh,
will
yeah.
Americans make their presence felt?
Mm,
How will the Chinese make their
mm.
presence felt? Meron kaya silang mamanukin sa
Meron yan.
eleksyon?
Meron yan, sir, no? Meron, we know for a fact. Kasi in any, of every powerful country, dapat may followers ka. Because that would also lead to your interest. No, we know for a fact that let's not deny the fact that in some of our electoral history, no, there were some upper hand also of Washington. No, sa kumbaga may minamanok din sila.
Mhm. Okay.
And so we natin, no, definitely it all boils down to money. No, because when you run in an office in the Philippines, definitely you need money. Kasi popularity contest pa rin tayo naman. No? That's part of the campaign strategy, and also may mga i-employ kang mga tao para magtrabaho sa iyo para
Yeah.
manalo ka, no, and
Okay.
definitely it entails money for that. Let's not deny that fact, and it's a reality, no. Now ang medium, ang tinitingnan naman diyan yung medium and long term. So if I win, what would be the in exchange, or what would be the reciprocity, no?
Ah,
Definitely, no. Kaya may mga lobbies tayo and so on. No? It may not be monetized, but it can be in the form of programs, projects, or policies.
okay.
No? Pwede magbago yung polisiya natin sa mga pinaglalaban natin tulad sa West Philippine Sea, or pwede rin mapadali yung mga ibang proyekto natin sa mga infrastructure programs natin, or pwede rin mapalambot ang ating perception at paniniwala sa isang bansa o sa isang leader
Okay.
sa ibang bansa. So, yun ang pwedeng mangyari na medium
Okay.
and long term.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a very strong possibility that there will be this Jerry Maguire syndrome.
Yeah,
Show me
definitely.
the money.
Show me the money. I agree. Show me the money, and let's talk about the interest of
Uh-huh.
our parties, no, something like
Okay.
that.
Pero
Mm,
in the Philippines, whether we like it or not, this is a personality-based
mm, mm.
politics. Na
Yeah.
kesyo ganito. Nobody can talk of political parties with strong ideological foundations
Because sila
except
rin ang tatamaan, sir, di ba?
except the Makabayan Bloc na red tag na
Yeah.
ngayon, no? Pero
Red tag
yung
na.
parang karamihan ng political parties, pardon the jargon, are company unions.
Right.
Okay? So what will happen
Mm.
to us?
Okay. We this has become a vicious cycle problem that feeling ko na trap tayo, no? I've been teaching culture and society in UP
It's
for more than a
anthropology.
decade as an anthropologist. At nakita namin yung pattern from historical from colonial period and the post-colonial na ang mga pinuno natin mga Pilipino na. And it really pains me and my students to see na bakit umuulit. There's a vicious cycle, no? Mahabang istorya pag babanggitin pa natin mga indicators bakit nagkaganon. But
Sige nga,
going direct
briefly.
briefly,
Interesting.
political patronage, tapos Filipinos lack vision of what they want, And we always choose who's the most powerful because that was the experience. Kaya nakita natin that nagmamanifest din yan sa mga parties. Versus, I mean, those who are in favor of this president and the previous president, something like that. Dahil in our history, we always keep on choosing kung sino ang malakas. And also, it's the fault of our elites, political and economic elites, and even scholarly elites.
Mm.
Dahil napakadamot nila. We saw some selfish Filipino leaders also because they only think of their interests. Now, for the longest time, historically speaking up to now, you only have a margin of elites. Kokonti lang sila. If you want to become a rich country, you should have a strong middle power. Hindi natin nakita yun sa Pilipinas. Kasi yung mga elites natin, preserve nila yung kanilang interest lang. Hindi nag-cascade.
Mhm.
Hindi inclusive yung growth.
It will never happen. It will never happen. Even
That's
the
what
IMF boss, si Miss Lagarde, said
mm,
trickle down is nothing. It won't happen.
it that's our narrative. It won't happen in the Philippines, but it may have that change may happen. That change may happen because we saw that in some other countries. Look at our neighbors. The Philippines were some were saying that the Philippines cannot progressively rise up because we are still a young nation state. No,
I've
I
heard
cannot
that.
accept that. Look
Matanda
at
na ako eh.
yeah, look at Vietnam, look at Indonesia, Singapore, our
Yeah.
of course, had progressive leaders. Leadership by example, servant leaders. Nakita natin. Kaya nga dun, sir, bumabalik dun sa value system natin eh. No, sometimes we take it for granted. And that value system is intergenerational. At ang hirap siyang gawin dahil multicultural and plural yung Pilipinas. Ang laki-laki. No? Now, you have Mindanao there, the next corridor of development. No, ang daming investments ngayon among the regions that I've seen as a reviewer of DNR, no, ang daming projects na ngayon na pumapasok sa Mindanao. Why? Because of the seat of power in Mindanao. You have the president coming from Mindanao. Natural naman yun. At gusto nating ma-develop si Mindanao naman. But the point there is hindi inclusive yung growth. Selective. And also, the problem there, dapat nga lumalawak yung elites natin ngayon kasi global na ang market. Or if not kasi from global, nag-regional ngayon because of the pandemic. Medyo regional. Pero sila-sila pa rin. The same old families during the Spanish period until now. They are the same set of people running our economy who are the pillars of the economy of the Philippines. Yun ang naging problem. And ito, sir, it's a reflection. Whenever for the past 10 years, I've been asking my young students, graduate and undergraduate students, and I would ask them at the end of the semester, would you, who among you can make our country progressive and rich? And rarely do I see students raising their hands that confident, up high. May
Mhm.
magtataas ganyang kababa, siguro 5, 10.
Uh-huh.
Makita mo yung confidence level ng mga young generation, ang baba. And that is shocking and problematic and it makes me sad. Kasi
Uh-huh.
it lacks, Filipinos lack that vision.
Okay. Was it in 1995 or 1996 that a survey was made among grade school students,
Mm.
and the question was, given the choice, to which country would you wish to belong?
Walang gusto sa Pilipinas.
At ang sabi ng karamihan they'd rather go to the US. No? Doon na lang sila sa Amerika, yung iba gusto sa
Yeah,
Europe.
because of the American dream.
Yeah.
Right.
So, kung ganun,
And sometimes,
yes, bakit ganun ang
go
idea?
ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Bakit ganun? Yun ang nakikita
Okay.
mo, maganda? With what's happening in the US now, would you still want to go to the US of A? I doubt.
Of course, I doubt, sir. No. Okay. The narratives have changed now. Before, I know I have some relatives in the states. No, they they dreamt of the American dream. At totoo naman, nung nag-aral ako sa US, sir, nakita ko naman yung mga kamag-anak ko na sumusundo sa akin every weekend dahil miss na miss kong kumain ng kanin. Eh nakita ko naman yung bahay nila ang gagara at ang gaganda at ang lalaki. No? I'm talking about relatives who are nurses and
Yeah.
doctors, physicians, no. At nakita ko na may talaga namang na-achieve nila yung American dream. Ang sabi nila, kapag sa Pilipinas ba, mga nurse kami, magkakaroon ba kami ng malaking bahay at magagarang kotse? So, hindi nila magagawa. So, truly, it happened there. Now, nagbago because of the recession also in the States and some of the issues that we have in terms of the value system in the States. No? At lahat naman nagbabago for the reason that empires, nations rise and fall. No?
Yeah.
Mukhang nakikita natin bumababa ngayon. At habang may bumababa, may umaakyat. Nakita natin si China tumataas, umaakyat. But of course, ang question ng mga West naman, Europeans particularly, can we follow the China model? Of course, no. Sabi na hindi naman natin pa-follow si China model. But the point is, now that by 2030 until 2050, we are seeing a different we are seeing a paradigm shift economically speaking. The fulcrum of the gravity of economic activities will shift from west to east. Dahil makikita natin dito, particularly by 2050, the top 5 economies in the world are in this region. You have China, India, tapos US, of course, sa North America siya. Tapos
Mm-hmm.
si Japan. Meaning to say, maambunan naman si Pilipinas. Maambunan naman tayo with that prospects and of
Okay.
course with that prosperity, no.
Okay.
Unang-una nakikita naman natin na ayun sir, yung macroeconomics medyo kaya naman.
Okay. Very good. Siguro dun sa nalalabing ilang minuto sa ating panayam ngayon, uh, how will the Joe Biden administration treat the Philippines? How will the Xi Jinping regime treat the Philippines? Dahilan sa nag-uumpugang bato yan eh. Pero
Yeah,
hindi ka
yeah,
pwedeng maging lagaring hapon dyan eh.
yeah,
Dahil
yeah,
pag
yeah.
lagaring hapon ka, wala kang binatbat.
Yes, of
Ano
course, no.
kaya ang tingin mo rito?
Of course, two competing economies, two competing hard
Power.
power superpowers, no. Okay. Tingnan natin muna yung yung economic activity ng dalawa. Naglalaban siya ngayon eh. One and two economies, world economies. Eh mas malapit si China sa atin. Pero ang may offer ni US sa atin, we are your oldest treaty ally. That we have to see, no, kung ipaglalaban talaga tayo ni US. Looking at the standards, domestic issues of both countries. Para objective lang yung analysis natin, sir. In the US right now, they really have to focus on their domestic issues. Like yung unemployment nila is very high. They are combating the COVID-19. They're not very successful in doing that recently. And although tumaas ng konti naman yung kanilang yung economic GDP nila ay medyo bumaba recently, no. So they have many insecurities and issues in the states. In China right now, medyo stable sila. Of course, we know for a fact that the virus started from them, pero nag-buoy up yung economy nila. Plus, they have a leader with indefinite term na kahit magkaroon pa ng after Biden, mayroon pag dumating, nandun pa rin si Xi Jinping. Meaning to say, when it comes to their grand strategy and foreign policy making, mukhang angat ngayon si China, no? Unless the a lot of major economies worldwide will put their cards to 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 ano to the US under the Biden administration, no? Because ang tao naman ang tinitingnan nila diyan yung mapagkakatiwalaan nila. Right now, when it comes to perception and to trust rating, talagang hindi pa talaga mapagkakatiwalaan si China at yung image at ang perception kay Xi Jinping, no. Kasi magkaiba ng value system at saka yung political system nila. But nonetheless, now, when it comes to the Philippines, ano naman ang mare-redound, ano naman ang mapapakinabangan natin? Because we are attracting these two competing global powers. No? Unang-una, kung titignan natin ngayon yung investments, no, in the Philippines, mukhang uh, aggressive si China because they are helping us because there's a current infrastructure program right now, the Build, 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 where China is primarily giving its support to the government. Si US mukhang hindi pa niya maibigay kasi may mga domestic issues siya. Saka lately, even before naman, hindi ganun ka-active na si US, no, when it comes to commerce and investments in the Philippines. Secondly, when it comes to magkaiba yung hardware
Uh-huh.
because sa South China Sea mukhang malakas pa rin ang tiwala at paniniwala natin kay US. Kaya nga, there was a time that we really would want to scrap the Visiting Forces Agreement and some other mutual defense treaty with the US. Pero nagbago because of the changing volatile security environment in the region. Kasi nga, hindi natin maintindihan minsan yung ibang ginagawa ni China or minsan pabago-bago sila sa kanilang ginagawa. And we fully understand the strategy of the US at kung ano yung mga plans nila when it comes to the South China Sea. So, magkaiba siya. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng nag-hedge si Philippines. Kaya nga, na-master natin yung hedging strategy, not only in the Philippines, but in some other Southeast Asian countries, ginagawa nila yan. Economically speaking, they are aligning themselves itself to China, but security-wise, nag-align sila kay US. And what I will see, during the administration of Biden, that hedging strategy will foster. Makikita talaga natin yan, lalakas na lalo. Unless the US will prosper. In which case, makikita talaga natin na mukhang si China ang successful with that kind of indicator. One, because they were successfully able to contain the virus. Although meron pa rin mga frequency doon at saka mga episodes. But in the US, nakita natin na talagang ang laki ng kanilang gagawin pa in terms of combating the COVID. And secondly, it entails money also because you have to buy vaccines and distribute it. And secondly, maubos yung pera nila doon. And secondly, we are still clinging to the US as the world's police right now because we cannot give that order or that position to China because we have doubts with the Chinese intentions. And most of the countries worldwide are not convinced yet with China. No, hindi na pa nila nakikita si China na pwedeng pumalit kay US as a leading
Okay.
superpower. No, so yun ang pwede nating makita right now with our prognosis from medium term. No, yun po ang pwedeng mangyari.
Yeah. Pero looking at our legislators,
Mm, mm,
from the
mm,
House to the Senate,
mm.
how would it compare with other countries' lawmakers? It appears we have more comedians rather than deep thinkers, no?
I think it all boils down to the political culture in the Philippines. No, there were propositions na ibahin natin yung electoral reforms, no, natin. Let's have that elevate the electoral reforms and have it change. Mukhang ayaw din ng iba ng legislators natin because unang-una maapektuhan din sila. Nasanay na kasi tayo. And that has pained me a lot as a teacher kasi inaaral natin yung mga pagkakamali ng Pilipinas noong panahon pa ng Kastila hanggang ngayon at halos ganun pa rin, no, walang pinagbago. The point that if we really would want to have change and to make our country prosperous and promising, dapat palitan natin ito, no? Because nakikita naman natin, no, na mukhang mukhang babae naman yung magiging presidente ng Pilipinas next year, no, by indicators, no, ang pwede mangyari, no. Sana baguhin yung electoral reform kasi gaya ng
Magkaroon talagang electoral reform.
Yes, sir. Gaya ng binanggit nyo kanina, bakit mga komedyante o kundi mga artista yung nandyan o mga ibang
Wala
mga
namang
ano.
masama maging artista.
Wala namang masama.
Wala.
Tama po kayo. Dahil maraming magagaling na artista, no? We really
Yun.
very versatile sila. Gagaling nilang ano, no, creative and so on, no.
Yeah.
We're not
Was it the late Rex Robles who said
mm.
Oh, it's another Commodore pala who said something like,
Ah, ah,
if they are to give awards
mm.
like yung
Ay,
FAMAS,
tama no. Ang dami-daming
dapat
award-giving bodies.
dapat bigyan yung mga politiko
Mm.
because they can make us laugh, they can make us cry and steal our money without us knowing why.
Yeah.
Somebody
Pwede
said,
rin sir, no? Entertainers din sila, no?
yeah, oh.
Celebrity yung mga politicians natin dito. That's the big problem. Because,
I just couldn't imagine. Yung speakership is one big deal, no?
yeah. I agree with you,
They
sir.
they fight tooth and nail. They hurl invectives, including the toilet bowl.
Yeah,
Lahat na lang, no? Pero anong pinanalo ng taong bayan? That is the
yeah.
question.
Mm.
And
Dahil,
anong modelo ang nakikita ng mga kabataan sa kanila? You know?
ang napakaganda ng tanong, no? It's really a challenging question. Kasi dapat may role models tayo. I think it boils down to value system. Dahil unang-una, I know we cannot we cannot deprive other people to have that aspiration to lead or maybe to rule the country or maybe to lead us, no? Pero sana naman isipin naman nila yung mga susunod na henerasyon because they look up to these people. And sometimes, kaya nga dun sa mga ibang interviews ko, sinasabi ko merong yung apathy, feeling of apathy itong mga millennials natin sa Generation Z. Kasi nga po, yung mga binoboto natin, walang mga minimum, walang maximum requirements. Meron lang minimum requirements sa kanila.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it disappoints them, itong mga bagong graduates natin, na kapag nag-a-apply sila sa mga posisyon na gusto nila, mayroong mga requirements like college degree, tapos with experience and so on. Pag pumasok ka sa politika, hindi naman nire-require yung mga ganun. I think, let's not underestimate our voters. Kasi, matatalino na itong mga bata na ito. Baka magulat tayo magkaroon ng revolusyon or magbabago yung ano, and of course no, that would change overall the system, but definitely wag naman sanang ganun. Ang gusto natin mangyari, let's have that electoral reforms habang nandyan kayo sa mga posisyon niyo ngayon, ayusin natin ng Pilipinas. It's not being idealistic or what, because that is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's always remember those people who will inherit or who will replace you later on.
Yeah.
No? Mm-hmm.
Liliwanagin natin. Iba yung metalino, iba yung magulang. Okay?
Tama.
Kapag magulang, ibang usapan yan. Gugulakan kita. Ganon. Pinipili kasi ng mga, I don't know, pero pardon me if I'm wrong, no? Meron bang pagkakataon na ang politiko would rather keep the people poor so that they will, still be able to use 1,000 peso bill come election time? Yung sistemang feudal. Doon sa anthropology kasi, sinasabi na Filipinos are basically honest. Yung traders nung araw, iwan na lang sa tabing dagat yung paligid. Kukunin ng Chino, magpapalitan. Pero ngayon, hindi yata ganon.
Tama ho. Napakaganda nung nung comparison in the past, but of course nagbabago ngayon. Unang-una, pwede rin kasi na pwedeng gawin natin kung dun sa reform na gagawin natin, transparency, no? Pwede rin tayong magkaroon ng botohan na ngayon na kasi 'di ba? Kaya nga tayo nagkaganito, work from home, tapos using technology, pwede na rin, para walang dayaan for the elections, pwede na rin through technology, no? Magawin natin yan. And secondly, the value system is really important because it's an intergenerational issue, no? Pwede yung kagaya ng kinikwento nyo kanina, sir, na in the past, bakit very honest yung mga Pilipino, but now, nag-iba. Ganun din yung pagboto natin. In the past, may mga suhol, no? Kayang bilhin yung ang mga boto natin. Ngayon, because of the digital transformation at ginagamit kasi ngayon ang SOCMED, yung social media at yung mga ibang technology natin, ang nagiging problema din ngayon ng mga kabataan natin yung fake news. No? hindi sila updated, or if not, hindi sila nabibigyan ng pagkakataon na malaman kung ano yung katotohanan. Because sometimes with us, no, lalo I'm talking about the generation XYZ ngayon, um, nagki-click na lang sila, or hindi minsan nila binabasa, or hindi sila nakikinig sa diskusyon, no. Very superficial yung kanilang understanding, no.
Yeah.
No, that's a problem. At nakakatakot dahil majority of our voters are coming from that generation, from that block.
Okay.
Ngayon, kung hindi natin sila tutulungan o hindi natin sila tuturuan kung paano mamili ng leader, magba-backlash, babalik din lahat sa kanila. And that's what I'm trying to drive at earlier. Nagiging vicious cycle at na-trap lahat tayo. How do we go out from that cycle? Ngayon nasa kamay natin lahat 'yan. It's up to us to teach these young guys and girls to choose their leaders wisely. Kasi sila rin naman yung magsasuffer sa consequences ng kanilang pagpili. That's why I mean we have to become we all have dreams for the Philippines. Gusto naman natin kung ano natatamasan ng mga mayayamang bansa or ng masisiglang ekonomiya na sa ibang bansa, maranasan din natin kung hindi man tayo yung mga susunod na henerasyon.
Yeah. Oo. I do recall, meron tayong Ambition 2040.
Yes,
Yan
right.
Aquino administration, tuloy-tuloy ngayon sa Duterte administration. Kinakatakot ko lang, baka mauwi sa Bangungot 2040. Kung magkakamali na naman tayo sa sistema. Ang sabi nung isang viewer natin, si Elmer Bandol from Legazpi, kailangan daw paghandaan ng eleksyon, pwedeng ihalin tulad a disaster preparedness, bawal ang eleksyon. No? Para lagi nagaganap yung disaster. Thank you, Dr. Chester CABALZA. This won't be the last of our interviews sa ating coffee chat. I look forward to more in-depth analysis. Do you think there will be a peaceful assumption in Washington on the 20th? Do you think Mr. Biden will look into Asia considering the problems they have in the US? Siguro in the final stage.
Okay, those are two interesting questions. Definitely, I think the good thing about the American institutions, despite of the personalities or politicians that they have there, no, really democracy works, and we will see a smooth, not really a smooth transition because there are some problem right now there. Pero makikita natin na maiupo po si President Biden sa January 20. At mangyayari ho yan, no? I mean next week, no? The point here is that it will happen. Now to the second question, will he look at Asia? Definitely, he has to. Otherwise, that's the only chance for survival for the US. Because by all indicators, Asia will be the next big thing today until beyond. I'm talking about 2050. All of the major economic activities will happen in Asia, and Asia is the future of the world. If the US will not grab that opportunity, mukhang mahihirapan sila to catch up with their rivals. And I'm quite sure we have hopes that because we share the same values with the Americans and the American people and their institutions, I hope that they will succeed. Because if they succeed, we will all be happy because we share the same vision and value system with them. Yun po ang aking masasabi.
Yeah. Do you see Donald Trump pardoning himself?
Definitely. I think we'll see what happens, sir. And definitely, because all SOCMED accounts, his social media accounts have been, di ba? Hack or close na. So, mukhang tingnan natin. Sometimes, ang lesson dun is, when you are in power, do your best for the benefit of the people, not only for your personal interest. Kasi magba-backlash. Look at what happened to him. No? So, yun lang po sana.
Yeah. Yung sobrang paggamit din ng social media, nakasasama.
Nakasasama, tama. Lahat ng sobra nakasasama.
Of course. Yeah, Dr. Chester CABALZA, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to more interviews. This
you,
is
sir.
one great interaction over coffee chat. It's one of the longest too.
Yeah,
Pero
thank you, sir.
pinakamalaman din ito. Maraming
Salamat po.
salamat po. Thank you very much. Until next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bye.
Salamat po. Bye-bye.